On April 14th, 1913, Jack Morgan lays his father to rest. Jack Morgan's whole life has been in preparation for this, to take his place at the head of their family's firm.
You ready?
But the legacy J.P. Morgan has left behind will not be easy to live up to. J.P. Morgan's bold vision and relentless drive transformed America.
So much of what he did and so much of what he achieved really wasn't about writing checks, but it was about the people he knew.
There's always a way. Key is knowing how to find it, which is why you came to me.
By financing the railways, the big industrial corporations, he built the single largest integrated economy in the world. And his son grew up in the privileged shadow of that.
Filling the void left by J.P. Morgan will not be easy to do. But Jack is determined to prove that he has what it takes.
I want the money and the power and the fame for real. Try to take it from me, then I'm down and kill. I deserve everything that I feel. I won't stop to the house in the hills. I'm in my zone, yeah. Got the money, power, respect. It's been too long, yeah. And baby, don't you ever forget I'm in my zone, yeah. I'm in my zone, yeah.
With J.P. Morgan gone, it's the end of an era. And Henry Goldman, managing partner at Goldman Sachs, plans to revolutionize American finance, challenging how the House of Morgan and his brother-in-law Samuel Sachs do business.
Studebaker is a new kind of company for the next century. What's crucial is that we have the employees buy into that idea.
Well, we're already offering a generous pension plan.
Actually, I have a thought about the pensions.
But you know what truly grows loyalty? Ownership. A stock purchase plan.
Goldman already made millions by taking companies like Studebaker public. Now, he pioneers ways to boost profits across the board.
I like that. For employees who have been with the firm for like a year or more.
That's good. That is good. And we'll offer it annually, increasing their stake exponentially the longer they stay with the company.
The relationship between Sachs and Goldman was very, very fraught. Henry Goldman was much more willing to take risks, whereas Samuel Sachs wanted to just maintain business and continue to let the business grow.
While Henry Goldman wants to push Wall Street into the next century, Sachs believes Henry's new idea will turn the rest of Wall Street against them. Goldman's stock options for employees are not only a first for a major American company, it's a direct challenge to the approach many major firms take. But since Henry has yet to make a bad bet, Sachs has no choice but to fall in line. While Henry moves forward with his plan, an event 3,000 miles away is about to change everything. On June 28, 1914, an assassin kills the Archduke of Austria, igniting a deadly conflict that quickly escalates into the First World War. Filled with a patriotic sense of urgency, Europe takes sides. With Great Britain joining Russia and France, they become known as the Allies, aligned against the Central Powers of Germany, Austria, and Italy, while the U.S. remains neutral. As the war develops, Samuel Sachs seizes the opportunity to step out of Henry Goldman's shadow. He crosses the Atlantic and meets with Alexander Kleinwort, head of the prestigious British bank Kleinwort Sons and Company. Samuel has worked with Kleinwort for years, using the bank to secure British investments. But now Sachs has something to offer: financing for the British war effort.
I don't understand. Why invade Belgium if they knew it was going to inspire England to declare war?
Because they wanted us to declare war, Samuel. Because they believe they can defeat us. Because they don't just want to control the continent, they want to control Great Britain. And then, watch out. They'll come for you.
But they can't defeat you, can they?
No, of course not. But it'll be a long war, a bloody war, an expensive war. I only wish your president was willing to take a side.
Alexander, you know me. Regardless of our country's stance, Great Britain has my full support.
And Henry feels the same way?
You can be assured I speak for everyone at my firm.
Good. Drink?
Please.
The meeting is a success. The two men agree to partner, and Sachs opens an office in London. With England having declared war on Germany, Sachs has positioned the firm to make millions by financing the war effort. If the British turn to Goldman Sachs, Samuel will have landed a deal bigger than any Henry ever has. As Germany invades France, the war falls into a deadly standoff. In America, it becomes a polarizing conflict. Many Americans support President Wilson's call for U.S. neutrality, but the majority support the British. For German Americans, who make up the country's largest immigrant group, the pressure to support the Allies is immense. But some in the German American community resist, outspoken in their support of their ancestral homeland, believing Germany has nothing to apologize for. And one of the most outspoken is Henry Goldman.
Be reasonable. I am. Is it unreasonable to support the country of our parents' birth in a war not of their own making? Did they fire the first shot? No. They defended an ally, as did Russia, as did France, and now Germany must defend themselves. This is war. As Nietzsche says, terribleness is part of greatness. Let us not deceive ourselves.
Henry Goldman spent much of his youth in Germany, loved German culture, and had a real affinity for Germany. He was a Germanophile. He believed that England and France were really trying very hard to create the war to prevent Germany from developing and growing.
As German Americans and as bankers, we need to stand with them, not just with our words, but with our wallets.
Goldman's support of Germany shocks those close to him. When Samuel Sachs hears that Henry has taken such a public stance against the Allies, he's furious. If Henry doesn't support the Allies, Sax's partnership with Kleinwort in London is in jeopardy, along with millions of dollars in profit.
Meyer, please check the mailroom for delivery from the Union Pacific. I'm expecting an updated inventory of their rolling stock today.
But Henry Goldman is not alone in his support of Germany. He stands with the man who has become the most powerful banker on Wall Street, German-born Jacob Schiff. Since battling with J.P. Morgan over the Transcontinental Railroad, he's only grown his firm, maintaining its status as the premier Jewish investment bank on Wall Street. In the absence of J.P., Schiff has become the most respected and feared banker in the world. This allows him to support Germany, though it doesn't make him popular. With hopes of maintaining the peace between bankers, Schiff has scheduled a meeting with Jack Morgan to discuss Wall Street's stance in the war.
I was beginning to think I misunderstood our appointed meeting time.
Sorry if I was a little late.
But when Germany crosses a line and spills American blood, it makes talks impossible.
My God.
They're killing Americans. Over 100 women, children.
You're not suggesting I condone this.
Well, as an American, you should condemn it.
Of course I do. But this isn't America's war.
It's only a matter of time, Jacob.
At which point, I will support my country.
Because of this conflict that Schiff had with his own internal identity as a German, he was seen with suspicion by everybody. They all thought he wasn't doing enough for them because he was doing more for the other side.
On May 7th, 1915, the British luxury steamship Lusitania is torpedoed off the coast of Ireland, killing 1,195 people, including 128 Americans.
Germany heard that the Lusitania was carrying war materiel from New York to Britain, and they warned people, stay off the Lusitania because it's a ship of war. If you don't, we're not responsible.
The attack shocks the American public, who begin to demand America enter the war. But lobbied by Schiff and Goldman, President Wilson remains neutral. And without someone like J.P. Morgan to marshal Wall Street behind them, the Allies are in desperate need of financing.
England had always financed its wars internally. During the First World War, they'd shift from London to New York to provide finance to the Allies, because now the United States had enough capital.
Led by Britain's Lord Chief Justice, Lord Rufus Reading, the Allies come to New York, hoping to land the largest loan in history. Today, over $26 billion. For a loan of such unprecedented size, there's no guarantee Wall Street will deliver. And without additional resources, Great Britain and the Allies are doomed to lose the war. It is assumed that Redding and the Commission will be reaching out to the Wall Street firm with the deepest, longest ties to England, the House of Morgan. But after the passing of J.P. Morgan, they are no longer considered the leading bank on Wall Street. Jack Morgan views the loan as a chance to make his own name and put the House of Morgan back on top. So it's a huge blow when he's passed over for a competing firm.
We realize that an amount of this magnitude will be difficult to raise.
But it can be done. I have no doubt.
This is why I came to you first.
Schiff was ambitious. He had connections for whom he had made incredible amounts of money. His company, Kuhn Loeb, had incredible power.
The only pressing question I would have is, where would the money be going? I'll be blunt. Any loan I organize for you must not include a single penny for Russia.
You can't be serious. Russia is our ally.
And they are my enemy. This is a matter between me and my conscience. Certainly you understand my position.
Schiff was split three ways. He was a German, he was an American, and he was a Jew. In Russia, there were terrible pogroms and government support of anti-Semitism. And he had spent his whole career working against any kind of finance from any source to Russia.
Jacob, with all due respect, we are at war. And eventually, your government, your country, will choose a side.
I have chosen mine.
Schiff passes on the biggest loan in history because of his beliefs. A move that will cost him personally and could threaten to destroy his entire firm.
He couldn't support the Allies because in his mind, that was supporting Russian anti-Semitism. He was very confident that he was living a just life. Schiff wasn't just about the money.
As Jacob Schiff walks away from the biggest deal of his life, it will now be up to Jack Morgan to prove to everyone on Wall Street he has what it takes. Not being the Allies' first choice is a blow to his pride, but Jack refuses to let it get in the way. He knows the future of the United Kingdom, and countless lives are at risk if the British don't return with financing.
He used to buy them by the thousands. His favorite Cuban of them all. He used to call them Hercules clubs. Most men can't handle them, myself included.
My father always spoke to pipe.
Now to the loan, I hear people are throwing around 1 billion, but it's a reach. You simply don't have the time. But I can get you 500 million. And before you go anywhere else, you should know I'm the only one who can.
Jack Morgan secures his first major contract since his father's death, providing the biggest loan in history for the First World War.
The loan totaled more than $500 million, which was larger than the economy of many other societies at that time. So he needed the money of bankers all around the United States.
Jack Morgan now faces a huge challenge. He must secure the funding. He goes to every major bank on Wall Street, each one contributing capital. But when he gets to Goldman Sachs, he encounters a problem.
Jack, could you give us just a moment, please?
Of course.
You are going to be the death of this firm.
What did you expect me to say? You know where I stand.
Everyone on the street is lining up to be in on this loan.
That doesn't make it right.
Henry, you are an American.
And America is neutral. I, however, am not.
You can't pass up this
I'm
opportunity.
also a partner in this firm. My vote is no. Jack?
Henry Goldman's refusal to participate in the loan puts Samuel Sachs in an impossible position and threatens to take down the entire firm.
So you know where I stand.
Samuel Sachs was really upset with Henry Goldman when he refused to allow Goldman Sachs to have anything to do with funding the war against Germany. And it pushed Samuel Sachs to contribute $100,000 of his own money to show that he was a loyal American.
Jack Morgan successfully raises the $500 million for the loan and more. But it doesn't stop there. He sees the chance to make even more money through the war effort. Determined to rise to the occasion, Jack gets President Wilson's blessing to set up a Morgan-run Office of Export, coordinating the massive amounts of food, supplies, and arms sold to the Allies.
His Office of Export encouraged American producers to sell their products to the British and the French, and it boosts the value of his investments at home.
By contracting with companies where they have a controlling interest, like U.S. Steel and General Electric, he gets paid twice.
The British and the French received $500 million, and that money was used to buy American products. So he was making money on all sides of these deals.
The First World War places a new banker at the forefront of American finance, leaving no doubt that Jack has what it takes to lead the House of Morgan.
Jack Morgan's role in World War I made him the most respected, highly regarded, famous banker in the world. Jack Morgan and his colleagues profited enormously from the war because he was loaning out the cash, and then the cash was being used to purchase things from the companies that he had invested in.
While the House of Morgan sees profits, many in the public see it as war profiteering and are willing to see that he pays a price for it.
Calm down. Everything will be fine. Just put the gun down. I'll pay you whatever money you need.
Jack is shot, but survives. The would-be assassin is arrested, and the attack on the Morgan family becomes front-page news. Jack returns to work soon after, hailed as a hero. with the attack on him renewing calls for the U.S. to officially declare war.
Erich Munter, the man who tried to assassinate Jack Morgan, was associated with Germany, and that contributed to anti-German sentiment, which helped those who wanted to see the United States take a stronger stand for Britain and France.
And while President Wilson maintains American neutrality, soon, Germany leaves him no choice. With the Germans instituting unrestricted naval warfare in 1917, American merchant ships are sunk by German submarines. And on April 6, 1917, the United States declares war. As the nation prepares for battle, supporting Germany is tantamount to treason. For Jacob Schiff, his conscientious refusal to participate in the loan has a devastating effect on Kuhn Loeb. But his firm will survive as he steps away from the helm and the public eye.
It was, in a sense, the last stand of those who opposed in the banking community the United States providing this kind of financial support to Britain and France, which would become normal for the United States thereafter. The majority of bankers went along and very few spoke out against it.
Although almost forgotten, Jacob Schiff's legacy endures. He went head-to-head with J.P. Morgan and built one of the largest investment banks in the world.
Jacob Schiff's legacy is very complicated. Nobody really recognizes or remembers some of the big financing that he did, right? In fact, today is thought of more as a philanthropist.
He made massive contributions to the American Red Cross, the Tuskegee Institute, and countless others.
And it's that has really survived through the generations. The institutions that he financed, that he contributed to, he didn't see it as charity, he saw it as justice. This is a Jewish concept, a Jewish value that really drove who he was, to see justice in the world around him.
But as Jacob Schiff fades from sight, the strife at Goldman Sachs threatens to spill into the public eye. Samuel Sachs uncovers Henry Goldman's secret correspondence and illegal dealings with German banks. He knows it will destroy the firm unless Henry resigns. But Henry Goldman refuses to go quietly.
I always knew this day would come. I prayed it wouldn't, Henry, but deep down I always knew.
I don't know what you want me to say.
What I want you to say, good God.
Is it true?
I think you already know the answer to that. As do you. This entire interrogation is a performance.
My son is over there, your nephew, putting his life on the line for his country, while you actively work against it.
I'm standing up for what I believe in.
It's always been about you, Henry. And it always will be.
To avoid public disgrace and the destruction of his firm, Henry Goldman submits his resignation.
Henry Goldman's position was so unpopular, Philip Lehman refused to have anything more to do with Henry Goldman. The result was that Goldman Sachs faced the possibility that nobody would do business with them. And so the rest of the Sachses, and even his brother, forced Henry Goldman to resign from the company.
After years of internal conflict, it took the strain of war to break up the firm's namesake partners. Soon after Goldman's departure, World War I finally comes to an end. The Allies claim victory with the help of Wall Street's financing. But with 20 million deaths and over 20 million wounded, it has been an unimaginably bloody and devastating conflict. One that has changed the face of the world. While London may have survived the onslaught by the Germans, it's conquered by Wall Street. For the first time in history, New York overtakes London as the center of the financial world.
During World War I, the U.S. government gets much bigger, and Wall Street becomes this much bigger place than it had been before the war.
Those who financed the victorious Allies, like Jack Morgan, have taken their place leading Wall Street into an American century. Those who didn't must fight to repair their firm's damaged reputations. The years following the First World War radically change America's relationship with its financial center. A technological boom creates new industries: automobiles, film, radio, electronics, and aviation, all of which are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange.
So we look at the 20s as this great post-World War I boom time. We start building skyscrapers and our railroads increase. And now the automobile has really been mass marketed by Henry Ford in the United States. So the very word modernity meant America.
Because of these new technologies, participation in the stock market explodes. And Wall Street ushers in the Roaring '20s.
What happened in Wall Street in the 1870s and 80s was just a Wall Street affair. But Wall Street in the 1920s was an American affair. And you could invest in the market in New York if you lived in Washington State or in Idaho or anywhere, and people did. More and more Americans began investing their money directly into the market.
The Roaring '20s were a time period when the old rules don't apply anymore. There are new technologies that are pushing the economy, creating all these new jobs and new investment opportunities.
Reaching peaks never before seen, the booming market brings a new breed of investor looking to make a fortune on Wall Street. And one man arrives hoping to secure a job at the top by meeting with Jack Morgan.
Morning. Joseph P. Kennedy here to see Mr. Morgan.
Do you have an appointment?
You can just tell him I recently left my position at Hayden & Stone in Boston, and I'm looking to relocate in New York.
Sir, there's Mr. Joseph Kennedy here. May I speak? I told him you're here.
realize that Mr. Morgan's a busy man. Here. Take my card.
Joe Kennedy won't let the setback discourage him. In fact, it only plays into his determination to succeed.
Joseph Kennedy was Boston-born, Boston-raised, Irish Catholic, managed to go to Harvard.
Joseph Kennedy was a climber from the time he was 25 and a bank president.
But despite his pedigree and success in Boston, in New York, he's learned an important lesson about Wall Street's unwritten rules.
Joseph Kennedy came from an Irish immigrant family that many, including the Morgans, had looked down on, as rich as they were, because he wasn't part of the club. He wasn't one of them.
There was a great deal of prejudice in the country against Catholics at that time. His Catholicism certainly was not an asset on Wall Street.
Joseph Kennedy was so different from Jack Morgan. The Morgans wanted to make a lot of money, but they didn't actually want to be in the public eye. Joseph Kennedy, because he had a chip on his shoulder for being from this ethnicity that was excluded, he not only wanted to make money, he wanted to be famous. He wanted people to know he had money.
Turned away by the House of Morgan, Joe Kennedy jumps at the first opportunity to make his name on Wall Street. A chance to save the Yellow Cab Company. John Hertz, the founder of Yellow Cab, and eventually the Hertz rental car company, has a problem. Just days after taking his company public, the stock price is crashing, and he needs someone able to deal with what is called a bear attack.
A bear attack is when you use the press to see rumors of a company's demise or problems as a way of driving down the stock price that you can then buy at a discount because you know that those rumors are false.
Hertz desperately turns to Kennedy, who promises he knows just what to do.
I figured as long as I was at the bar, I'd get you a refill.
Nothing wrong with a refill.
So where were we?
Look, I don't know what Eddie's told you, but Yellow Cab's a good company. It's a goddamn solid company. Poured everything I had into it. What these jackals are doing, it's downright criminal.
Well, actually, John, it's not. It doesn't mean we can't put a stop to it.
Now, you can do that.
Well, I'll pull every lever I can to defend your company, but it won't be cheap.
Joe Kennedy has won John Hertz's trust, but what Hertz doesn't know is the man he just hired to save his business has never fought off a so-called bear attack before.
Risk tolerance is a huge part of this. I mean, if you really think about what makes these people successful, it's really having a stomach for the risk that's involved. You don't make money without taking on great risks. The question is, do you have the stomach to ride it out?
While Kennedy comes up with a plan to beat the unknown investors behind the bear attack, another outsider is starting with nothing but a new idea, setting a course that will eventually transform Wall Street forever.
See, we're a new brokerage, but we're not a bucket shop. We do business just like Blythe Witter or EA Pierce, dealing in both equity and debt, typically stocks and bonds, and some other securities too.
Like Kennedy, Charles Merrill was rejected from the established brokerages on Wall Street. Unable to access customers through the usual means, he decides he doesn't need anyone's permission and sells directly to them in person.
Just look it over when you have the time. And when you want to make an order, just come by the office. We can chat. See, that's how we're different. All trades will be executed next business day. Welcome to Merrill Lynch.
Charlie, from an early age, was an entrepreneur. He had this flair for just doing things differently. He just had this ethical strain in his body that believed that you really had to be an honest broker.
At the time, the leading Wall Street firms refused to go out and find new business. But Merrill worked hard to find new clients while sharing a room at the YMCA with another young banker, Edmund Lynch.
So Charles Merrill was the big idea guy, the visionary. Edmund Lynch, he was more the numbers crunching guy.
The two form a new firm, Merrill Lynch, and start to build the company from the ground up.
Edmund Lynch questioned some of Charles's ideas, but the two of them in their partnership really made a dynamic duo.
While Charles and Edmund try to succeed through honest hard work, Joe Kennedy has decided on a different approach. He sets up an improvised stock trading operation in a suite at the Waldorf Astoria. He has a plan to stop the bear attack on Yellow Cab.
Yes, Wall Street 451, please. Yes, it's Kennedy. Yeah, sell 4,000 shares at 37 1/8, do 50% margin.
With $5 million raised by Hertz, Kennedy has just enough to raise the price of the stock. But he can't make just one big buy. He must make it seem like hundreds of investors all over the country believe in the company.
Wall Street 451, please.
When Joe Kennedy wanted to pump up the value of the stock, or the price of the stock, what he would do is he would get investors to start buying and then to start to trade with each other.
Sell 400. Yes, thank you.
This generates a buzz on Wall Street. It also drives up the stock. Now, with that buzz and the price going up, now you have other investors jumping in, further drives up the stock. Then you start to leak news to friendly reporters about what a great company it is, and then that further drives up the stock.
Buy 5,000, keep it going.
Joe Kennedy was very good at manipulating the press, using rumors as a way of altering the stock price.
Listen, Frank, we're close. We're close, but we need to be patient.
If Kennedy's plan is discovered, the $5 million will have been wasted and his reputation destroyed.
Joe Kennedy spent a week at several telephones, aggressively bought and sold Yellow Cab Company.
Yep, we're up 3. Buy $10,000 worth now and stay by your phone. Keep it going.
Was that stock manipulation? Yes. Was it legal? Yes.
Yorkville 274, please. John, you looking at the ticker? You can just send my check to the Waldorf. They know where to find me. I told you.
Kennedy outmaneuvered the supposed big boys on Wall Street. So he won, they lost.
Thousands of investors take the bait, believing Kennedy's buys represent real interest in the company, and buy the Yellow Cab stock. It rises past its original price, giving Kennedy his first win and making his name a real player on Wall Street. But more importantly, he's learned a valuable lesson. There's more money to be made in manipulating the market.
He could have rented a much cheaper hotel room and had just the same success. But he always wanted to appear that he was the master of the universe.
While Kennedy's ambition soon makes him famous for beating Wall Street at its own game, Charles Merrill and Edmund Lynch have carved out a spot among Wall Street's leading firms, doing things the honest way. Their first big break is an unlikely place: supermarkets.
One of the most important things Charlie Merrill did was to underwrite supermarkets, which was a new form of industry that traditional Wall Street houses kind of shunned because they just did the railroads and the other traditional form. Charlie Merrill thought supermarkets were going to take over the world, and he underwrote them, and he was right.
Like Goldman and Sachs, they find success where the rest of Wall Street wasn't looking.
You have to understand Merrill's psychology as well as the general ethos of the company. It was doing your research, finding out what was going on. He had a way of looking at the market that was much more long-term. He had a way of looking at the market that was much more in-depth.
After a few short years, Merrill Lynch have gained the respect of their fellow financiers and made a fortune doing it. But Merrill and Kennedy are hardly the only investors making millions.
When people see a good thing, when people see somebody making money on something, they think that could be me too. And so when people would see the price go up in the 1920s, they think, oh my gosh, okay, and you're gonna feel like a fool if you don't do it.
I think that when people go towards Wall Street, they're always looking for that sense of, finding that next big thing, finding that massive amount of success.
The 1920s was actually the biggest boom in the history of the New York Stock Exchange. So it went up 425%. Well, it became a frenzy.
As the stock market keeps breaking records, not everyone is so enthusiastic.
Charles Merrill, he saw a lot of the trouble brewing with regards to market valuations, with regards to the liquidity in the market.
Over history, people do believe that things are so good, it will never change. It's going to go on forever, and rarely does it.
William? Cancel my appointments.
As the market breaks record prices, Merrill has its doubts it can go much higher. As he contemplates getting out, Edmund Lynch and everyone else on the street think he's lost his mind.
Merrill began to be more and more worried about the stock market, and he was so against the grain at that point. So many people thought, the sky's the limit, that Merrill actually went to a psychiatrist.
No matter what I do, I can't get a good night's sleep. It's been months. I don't really care that it drives Ed up the wall, but poor Helen, she's happiest when I stay at the office late these days. Everyone around me thinks I've lost my mind. What do you think?
Charles Merrill is looking at it and he's doing the math. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. And it's going to crash. He knows it. And he doesn't understand why no one else is seeing this reality. And he even questions his own sanity.
In those days, a Wall Street titan going to a psychiatrist, I'm sure that nobody would have admitted that they did that. But again, Charlie Merrill was different. He was always bucking the crowd.
Charles Merrill is torn. The more signs of a coming collapse he sees, the more Edmund Lynch wants to invest in the skyrocketing market. But what they don't know is that Merrill is right.
My God.
While some panic, others make their biggest moves yet.
So what are you proposing? An investment trust, unlike Wall Street has ever seen. Given the market's turbulence, action is required. Mr. Morgan is closely following the situation. Not trying to be greedy, simply asking for my due.
These numbers are terrifying.
JCPenney's up 2 1/4. Kresge's up 4.
You're missing the big picture just because you don't want to see it.
Nobody believes it but you.